Okay, today we're doing Math 2, Section 3.4, and today we're talking about congruent triangles and using them to prove corresponding parts. Okay? So, if you look at the bottom of page 148, or the middle, I mean. Okay, so kind of follow along with me. I'm going to read out loud. By definition, congruent triangles have congruent corresponding parts. So if you can prove that two triangles are congruent, you know that their corresponding parts must be congruent as well. So oftentimes we're just proving three things in a triangle, correct? But once you prove the three things by like angle, side, angle, or side, 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 or whatever it is, then you know that every single part in the triangle, whether it was stated or not, is congruent. Is that clear? Okay, so in your groups, restate in your own words what I just said to you. Okay, right now, share. So, if you prove, let's say you proved a triangle congruent by using side, side, side. Are all their angles congruent as well? Yes. Okay? So once you prove something is congruent, then everything in the triangles are congruent. Okay? That's the big idea. Okay, we're going to move on. And remember, we have these four things, okay? Side, 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 angle, side, angle, side, angle, 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 side. So once you prove it by those methods, then you know that all parts in the triangle are congruent. Okay, we are going to look at the bottom of 148 now, and we're going to work through this proof. So up to this point, when we were doing our proofs, we were always trying to prove that two triangles are congruent. Correct? Now, if you look here on this one, they are asking you to prove that two angles are congruent. Okay? So, that needs to be in the back of your head. Let's go ahead and make our box for our statement and our reason. Okay, what should always be the first part of my proof? Okay, so let's write that down. So we have BA, segment BA, is congruent to segment DA. And CA is congruent to EA. And that was reason is given. Okay, and double check that those are marked. And I can see that they are marked. So looking at the triangle now, or my diagram here, what do you notice about the two triangles? They meet at one point. So if you look at your sticky note that we just made here, when they are touching at one point, we are probably going to find what? Vertical angles. Okay? So, this angle and this angle are vertical angles. How will I write that? Good. Angle C, A, B, because you want whatever's in the center to be in the middle. Okay? Is congruent to angle. And then so I started at C, I need to start at E. So we have EAD, and that reason is vertical angles. Do I have three pieces of information? Yes, good. Okay, so this is when we are going to prove triangle congruence. Thank you. Very beautiful. Okay. Okay, so then 3 is where we are basically stating that the triangles are congruent. Are we all okay with that? Okay, So I'm going to put triangle CAB is congruent to triangle EAB. You don't have to write it as CAB. You can start with any letter. You just want to make sure you keep the same corresponding letter, right? I just used these because I'd already written them and I knew they were in the correct order, so it was easy just to write it the same way. Okay? I'm just talking about the triangles. And then how do I know that the triangles are congruent? Kyle, what is it? Did I do something wrong? So how is it? Yeah, what is the reason? Yes, so that's what's going right here. Side, angle, side. Okay? Now, I still haven't done this proof. I still have to prove this. So we're working towards that, okay? So remember what we just said before is that if we prove two triangles are congruent, then their corresponding parts are also congruent. So step 4 is what we were trying to prove. So now that I proved that the triangles are congruent, I know that angle C is congruent to angle E. Okay? And that reason is, and we're going to abbreviate it, okay? Corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So CPCTC. And I'm going to write this out in words so that you can look at it later and know what we are saying. So that means corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. And I'll wait a minute to make sure you guys have all that. So today, basically, the lesson is that we are going to prove that two triangles are congruent, okay, by a theorem or postulate. And then once we prove the two triangles are congruent, we are able to say that these parts are also congruent based on corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Do we have questions? Okay, so this next part is on page 149. Okay, did you get it all, Carlos? Are you good? Okay. All right, so first this one, it says developing a proof, tell why the two triangles are congruent, and give the congruent statement. So looking at this, are the two triangles congruent? Yes. So I'm going to write yes. Okay, and then it says give the congruent statement. So that is where we're going to go triangle. And you just have to decide what letter you want to start with. So in this case, what letter? Okay, let's do L. So L, J, K is congruent to triangle. And then what will I have to do on the next one? M, N, O. Okay, so you want to make sure that L, see how L and M both have the single angle thing? And then J and N both don't have anything marked there, and they're down from the side that has the two marks on it. And then K and O are on the same spots as well. Okay, so now that we know that, it says list all the other corresponding parts. Just a minute. So go ahead and do that right now on your own. List any part that wasn't stated, state its congruence. Okay, So I'm just gonna pull some sticks here, and I just want you to give me one thing that's missing, okay? Do you guys know what I'm asking for?
Yes.
Okay. This is not the right class, just kidding. All right, somebody tell me one of them. Okay, Michael, what's one piece?
Line KJ is congruent to line
KJ is to ON?
Oh,
Okay, good. So because of the two triangles being congruent, we know that those lines are also congruent. Okay, what else? Okay, Christian. Good. Angle A is congruent to angle O. Oh, wait. Thank you, K. There we go. Asia, did you have one? Okay, so L and M they already told us, right? So we just got K and O. So what other one is it? J and N. Good. Angle J is congruent to angle N. And then we got this side right here. Is that all the missing pieces? Good. Okay, do we have any questions on that? No? Okay. Moving on here. This is at the bottom of page 149. Or middle. Okay, so we have to do a proof. Are you guys ready? No? Yes, you are. You got this. Number one's easy, right? So let's go ahead and give all the given information. AB is congruent to AC. And then we know that M is the midpoint of BC. Okay. So what does it mean when something's the midpoint? Yes. It bisects it, it cuts it in half or into equal parts. So here is M, it's the midpoint of BC. So what kind of markings could I put on here? So we're gonna do two lines right here between B and M and two lines between M and C. What can I write about that now? So we would write BM is congruent to MC. And how do I know that? Very good. Definition of midpoint. Since they said midpoint, we use definition of midpoint. If they had said bisect, we would use? Good. Okay, so now I know that this line is equal and this line is equal. What do you notice about these two triangles? They share a side. Going back to our proof help. What happens when they share a side? Good. Okay, so number 3. The side that they share right here is the MA. So we're going to say MA is congruent to MA. And that is reflexive property. Do I have 3 things right now in this statement? Yes. So what will be my number 4? Your proof part, right? That the triangles are congruent. And so we have our 2 triangle statement. Triangle what? A and B is congruent to triangle AMC. And how do I know that? By side, side, side. There are 3 sides marked, right? No angles. Angles always have the little thing on the angle mark, right? Okay. But was that what I was proving? Was I proving triangle congruence? No. I needed to prove Angles. So number 5, after I state triangle congruence, then I can say anything I want to about the triangles. So angle AMB is congruent to angle AMC by, what was it? CPCTC. Congruent parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Okay, are we feeling any better about any of this? Yes? Okay. All right, next one. They have developing approved. Sometimes these are kind of nice because you're just filling in the blanks. So you need to read everything they stated here. Oh, sorry, this is at the page of, bottom of page 150. Okay, so it states line RA is congruent to NY. So I'm just doing a single marking on that side. Then it says angle KRA. So K to R to A is here at the top. And that means we have J and Y over here at the top. Those are congruent. And then it says KAR. So that's down here. I'm going to do 2 angle markings. And JYN, 2 markings here. And so it says they're wanting to prove that 2 lines are congruent. And it goes down here and it tells you all this given information. And is there 3 markings on this? So do we even have to state anything else specific? No, because it's all already there. Okay, so basically now they have triangle J and Y here. So it's going to be triangle, what here? KRA, good. KRA is congruent to that triangle by which method? Good, angle side angle. And then therefore we know that line KA is congruent to line JY because of what? Good, congruent parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Okay. All right, so we're going to do these last 2 problems together, and this is there on page 151. And it says, name the postulate or theorem that you can use to show the triangles are congruent. Then explain why the statement is true. Okay. So what is missing? What are you noticing? Because right now there's only 2 pieces of information. Joseph. They share a side, which means we're going to use reflexive. So we basically need to state that TA is congruent to TA by reflexive property. Okay. Now based on that, we would use what? Very good. Side, angle, side. So side, angle, side. And then we know that EA is congruent, line EA is congruent to line MA by congruent parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Okay, what is missing on number 5? They need another side, right? They share a side, and we know that sharing a side means we're going to use reflexive property. Okay, so JN is congruent to JN by reflexive property. Okay, based on that information now, we know we would use what? Side, side, side. So that means that angle U is congruent to angle E by congruent parts of congruent triangles are congruent.